Good evening.
Good evening.
Privilege of the floor. Mary Hayes.
Hi. My name is Mary, and I just wanted to let the board know, in order to be in compliance of the Public Officers Law, Article 7, Section 106, it states that minutes of any public meeting need to be made available to the public within 2 weeks. They do not need to be approved before they are prepared and given to the public. I'd also like to suggest that the town board look at using their own equipment. I know that this meeting hall is equipped with digital audio equipment that maybe you could use in the future. I know that Mr. Whipple, that you were looking into getting a more transparent web page going, and this is a perfect opportunity for the town board and the town of Yates to do so. You could purchase audio and video equipment if you couldn't use this, and use your website as a way to keep everyone informed in the most transparent government you could possibly have. And I hope that we could come to a resolution whether or not we could use the audio that's already in place. Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. I know. There was a lot of stuff to cover. I understand. It was 4 or 5 minutes. Just to address the board and people in the audience here in regards to the Apex Wind Project. The Yates Town Board and the property owners are not adversaries. And I want to stress that point to everyone here. We are your neighbors, your co-workers, and your friends. The people are in conflict with Apex Lighthouse Wind LLC and their plans to erect a mammoth industrial wind turbine complex in our town. The board just happens to be the third party in the fight. In the past few months, the downside and pitfalls of this project have been demonstrated to the board. I feel that the board may have an inkling by now that a lot of people are against this. Years ago, there were thoughts to build a hazardous waste site and possibly a nuclear power plant on the Morrison property. After some analysis, they were determined to be bad ideas. Common sense won out. This plan is no different. The community is now asking for your support in stopping the installation of some of the largest industrial wind turbines built to date. When the next phase of the process comes along, the preliminary scoping statement, residents and landowners strongly encourage you to advise the New York State Siting Board of all areas of non-compliance and raise objections over the plan and demand that Apex comply with all present applicable laws. As stated previously, you have the authority and the responsibility and obligation to ensure any proposed development is in accordance with the laws, rules, and most of all, the character of our town. We, as members of the SOS, invite the board to work with us to advise the State Siting Board of these concerns before this project continues into its next phases. We invite the board to hold meetings with us. We would love to sit down and meet with you about it. We strongly urge the board not to change any laws to accommodate Apex Lighthouse Wind. The exact opposite should be happening. Just like anyone else that wants to build something in this town, they should have to adapt. The town should not have to adapt. We also strongly urge the board to renew its February 2012 resolution against the Power New York Act of 2011, the state legislation that created Article 10. The resolution back in 2012 was made because the board felt it infringed on their home rule powers. Take back your power. you can say no to the siting board for cause in so many areas. The board's recommendations carry significant weight with the state. To date, according to the Public Service Commission, there has been no correspondence from the Yates town leadership concerning the Apex Public Involvement Plan filed in October. We would love to see that change. They need to hear from you. You have a huge say in this. At this point in the process, the public cannot accept assertions by any board, whether it's here, Somerset, the planning board, whatever it may be, that they don't know much about this project and that the state siting board makes all the decisions. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We want you to know everything there is to know about the plan, the process, and what you as local government can do to influence the outcome for your residents. We need open, transparent government, particularly regarding projects that have such significant impact on the community. We ask that you work with the community, make informed decisions based on facts, and what's best for all, not just for a few. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Roger Barr. I'm here on behalf of SOS also. I'm the attorney for SOS and I'm one of the directors of SOS. And I just want to make a couple of very quick points. First, I want to stress the fact that SOS as an organization is not against wind energy. There are farmers and others in this community that may want to put up a tower for their own personal use. Fine, we have no issue with that. I want to make that clear, because if a farmer wants to put it on, to, put a tower up to support his own activities, God bless him, great. What we object to are these 570-foot tall, highest in New York State, industrial wind turbines stretched along our community. Second, just to point out that we don't have a totally organized, scripted program among us tonight. I want to say that Mr. May stole a little bit of my thunder on my next point, but I will, because he referenced the February 2012 resolution that you all passed, and I have copies for each one of you and one for the clerk, of course. Just to remind you, that was a unanimously passed resolution directed to the governor and other officials of the state, stating this board's strong objection. Mr. Bentley was the seconder on that resolution, stating that you objected to Article 10 because it took away home rule, which is a long-standing tradition in this state. However, given that that is the law, there are still provisions in Article 10 for this board to become a formal party to the Article 10 proceeding. The town of Somerset has done that. And I urge this town to make a formal application to become a party. SOS, Save Ontario Shores, Inc. We have become a formal party to that proceeding. As a result, we get notices of everything that's filed in that proceeding by anybody. And I would urge that this town board file to become a party, and in so doing, ask that copies of any submissions that are made be addressed to each one of the board members. So nobody's left out. Each one of you will get full information to be able to make fair judgments as this proceeding goes on over a number of months. So that's my urging. The last point I want to make very quickly is reference to local law changes. I think Mr. Belson, you were quoted in a newspaper in October saying that there will be local laws that would need to be changed to comply with Apex's requirements and so on. We would ask that the public be notified in some fashion or other, as soon as possible, what your council may have advised or you have otherwise learned from Apex are laws that you would need to vote on to change in order for this thing to proceed. Because in that consideration, we'd like to be, participating. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Hi, Taylor Quarles, I'm with Apex, and just a brief announcement. I want you all to know that on April 1st, we've scheduled our third open house. It's going to be back over in Barker at the Fire Hall from 4 to 7. So, cover a lot of the same subjects, and also just talking about, where we are within the Article 10 process. And, that'll be a really good time to speak with myself, with Dan, and with other members of Apex to ask any questions you have. And of course, as you all know, our contact information is available on our website, so reach out at any time, but that'll be a good formal time to speak. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is John Lennox. I'm from Somerset. I've been holding the contract from Apex. I don't know, I got it in June or July of last year. And I work construction. And I've been looking through the contract, and I'm still finding things. Generate audio, visual, electrical effects, shadow, flicker, radio, interference, and or other effects attributed to operation of windmill facilities project. And if I sign, I didn't get a windmill, the wings could overhang my property, and I wouldn't benefit, I'd get minimal. Okay, that's one. Tenants shall not be responsible to comply to compensate landlord or ag tenant for soil compaction, inability to grow crops, raise livestock, or otherwise use premises as a result construction, maintenance, or operation of the windmill facilities on premises. Okay, that's just two little things out of 32 pages. All right. This is a table of contents from Cornell University. There's a guideline for wind corporation. Okay. This is from agricultural markets also. Guidelines for agricultural mitigation for wind projects. These are very important to the farmers, because when I found that, where they're not going to be responsible for compaction, if they're going to destroy the ground and the farmers can't farm the ground and feed the people, now they're going to generate power instead of feed the people. They're asking the farmers to do both, and that's a lot. And I have the utmost respect for farmers. They're the most hardest working class of people that I know. This is a copy of both sites, the ag markets, and there's a lot of good information there, guidelines. And if you know any farmers that are signing, hopefully they haven't signed yet, because they might give their rights away. And this corporation, my contract, they can notice me within, send me a legal notice within 60 days of termination of our contract. And if I don't like what they're doing, I'm stuck with it for 49 years. Okay? And there was a lot in that contract that I don't like, and I don't trust them. Just so you know, I didn't sign, and I'm not going to sign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Susan Dudley. I live at 11253 North Shore Road. I am a supporter of renewable energy. I do not support this Apex wind turbine project. I don't think that a wind turbine is an acceptable sound or scientific solution to renewable energy. They don't significantly reduce carbon dioxide. They don't produce a commercially viable source of energy. That's why they require tax dollars and subsidies. to support them. Wind turbines are not environmentally responsible. They have burn and bat kills, noise pollution, shadow flicker. They are finding that there is drought downwind of wind turbines, and that is only the beginning. There's more to the process than just wind turbines in Yates. These turbines are manufactured, many pieces and parts of them come from China. China doesn't care about carbon dioxide emissions. If you look at the statistics of what creating one wind turbine is doing to the environment, the teeny tiny amount of energy that 60 or 70 wind turbines are going to make is not a compensation for the ruination that is taking place. I believe that Yates and Somerset are being led down the garden path by a private corporation who is in it for only one reason, and that reason is profits. They don't live here, they don't work here. Their headquarters is in Virginia. Their project manager lives in Albany. They don't care about tourism, the Seaway Trail, the Golden Hill Park, or Niagara Wine Trail. They will do construction with heavy equipment during the summer tourist season. The roads will be blocked, it will be noisy, dirty, and dusty. When they are done, it's still going to be noisy and dirty and dusty. How far will these turbines span the unregulated insecticides that we are allowed to put on our ethanol corn? What will that do to the bees, and what will that do to the orchards? Apex will have ruined life for many people who invested in this community and in Somerset, who pay their taxes and send their children to our schools. Kate Vincent turned back the wind turbine project because the town board and the town people got together and fought it. They recognized that the liabilities were more than the benefits. They fought the Public Service Commission and they won. You board members can do the same. Home Rule Article 9 should trump Article 10. You have to fight, your town people will support you. Remember, we have certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I want to pursue my happiness here in Yates.
My name is Kate Kramer, 11433 Sunnycrest Lane. And I just wanted to present two articles that have information that I think is helpful for you to know. I'm just going to speak briefly about the content of them, and then I'll give them to you to read. I won't go into in depth. But the two issues that I'm presenting in these two articles have to do with noise and bats. So first I'll mention the article about bats. Bats are really important here in this county, in all the counties on the East Coast. They're very important to farmers. They're important to all of us, but they do have an economic impact. Their presence actually has an economic value. What I'm sharing with you is a very recent article that was in the Huron Daily Tribune. It was just put out in March 7th. And in Huron County in Michigan, they are dealing with a similar issue. There's a wind turbine project that they want to put in there right near the lake shore. And so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife biologists did a fairly extensive study along the lake shore there regarding birds and bats. They also did an extensive nighttime study. And this article talks about how they came back into the area and gave a presentation to their town board about this extensive study. And the result of it was that they said it's very important that we have a 3-mile setback from the shores of all the Great Lakes because of the importance of the migratory bird flyways, the bats and the raptors that are all using that lake shore as staging grounds for their migration. And so I'm going to give this to you. I don't know who I should give it to first. Just to pass it. There's plenty for all of you. The second article that I'd like to give you, it is from a journal called the Environmental Health Perspectives. It's a peer-reviewed journal that is supported by the National Institute of Environmental Health Science, the U.S. Department of Health Services, and the National Institute of Health. So it's a substantial journal. And the basic premise of the article is that there's a growing body of testimony and formal complaints by people who live near wind turbines, complaining of health problems ongoing. They quote a woman, "We were all so excited about it until it turned on, and then we realized we couldn't live with it." This article discusses the current state of research on noise and health, and in particular wind turbines and health. And basically, the article states that there has been no definitive study that says that wind turbines do or don't cause health problems. There's been no study. It hasn't been studied. What we have are a lot of people who are complaining about health impacts, but there really hasn't been a scientific peer-reviewed substantial study. So that when people say there's no proof that there's any connection between wind turbines and health, it's because there's no study. There's no study that says there isn't. There's no study that says there is. There's a lot of study that needs to happen. There's a lot of blanks. The question is, are we going to have in our town go up towers that could potentially cause people health impacts when there's no proof that they won't? I mean, we're talking here about, the same kind of situation where drug companies might or people put out a product without having to prove that it doesn't cause any harm. You put the product out, and then if it causes harm, well, then we take it away. I mean, that does happen. So that's sort of what we're dealing with. We're putting these turbines up, and we're hoping that it doesn't cause harm. And there's a big gap in scientific study of what this means for health. So we would like to, I'm also part of SOS, we would like to be a part with you of learning about all of this. There's a huge learning curve. A lot of us have been poring over documents, and there's so many different issues, and we're all overwhelmed by it. We would just like to share the process with you to keep learning. We're open to hearing what you have to say. We would like to share with you things that we are finding out. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, John Ricci, 10640 Lakeshore Road, president of SOS. Just wanted to let you know that we have learned that there's a special use permit that's been applied for, financed by Apex with Ms. Donna Bain, to erect a 190-foot Met Tower on her property. Like to know when the public hearing is going to be?
That will be at the end of the meeting.
Awesome. Okay, great.
We're going to go through that.
Thank you. The only thing I want to tell you is that SOS is vehemently opposed to any Met Towers going up anywhere in Orleans County. And we will be there to let you know that on the night of the public hearing.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
I'm Paul Mullane. I have property at the end of 63 here. And I would like to commend the board and Mr. Belson especially for, number one, I understand that you are able to recommend 4 people to be on the siting board, correct? And he has asked SOS to provide 2 names. I'm not sure if everybody's aware of that, but that's huge on his part, as opposed to his counterpart. So that's number one, but I will have to, I also believe strongly that the board say toward this Article 10 proceeding will go a long way toward stopping this. I'll jump on Mr. Maid's presentation. We're imploring you to please stop this as quickly and as soon as possible. I do now understand what you're talking about when you said earlier, in a meeting earlier that said if it stops in Niagara County, it stops. Now I understand why, certainly because of the Somerset plant. But we're asking you, as representatives of us, to please stop it as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Lynn Ruddy, fiancée to Matt Jost, who has a property at 10415 West Lake Shore, Brown Lane. So he couldn't be here tonight, so I'm just reading his letter for him. Dear sirs, I am a property owner in the town of Yates. I'm aware of the potential development of a wind farm in the towns of Somerset and Yates. I'm aware that Lake Ontario shoreline is a major flyway. I've witnessed huge flocks of Canadian geese fly over
my property. And they're on their way to the wetlands of the swamps in Alabama. They stop at the lakes and the ponds on immigration. Let's see. Freshwater streams are breeding grounds for the salmon and fish that feed into the lake. So we know there's aquifers, and there's a lot of water and groundwater, the wells, and all different things that are impacted. And they go from, everything is connected. So we have from Niagara County we're town to town to town, and I have a cottage in house in Carlton, right over the town, and I get my water from Yates. So we're all interconnected in our properties and our love of our quietness and our lake. That's just what I'm saying. Research has also been done on the buried transmission lines interfering with cattle. So other projects have gone, I guess, other places, and there's some research out there about certain things harming, and they've already had wind turbine farms, so they know these things. We're not from there, so we don't know these things. You know, so I was getting some information from people that were from around the Sweetwater area, downstate area. There are no long-term local jobs created. History of wind farms have shown that once constructed, the jobbers leave. The companies many times sell off the investment to leave the structures behind with no responsibility if they break down. History of wind farms have also shown that the landowners who sign their leases, take the money and leave the structures behind, where they do not have to look at the turbines or any potential impact down the road. I believe that the local residents will not benefit from the electricity generated. I believe that the electricity will be shipped to sold to other markets, leaving us to look down at the scarred ground And look up into the sky and see the towers rather than the birds. And blocking our beautiful vistas of the skies, stars, sun, and moon. The question is why here in our town? Less people to put up a fight? Please see the bigger picture for all of us, and not just what the wind farm is promising the town in the form of any, whatever they may promise. I don't know what to say there. Leasees are getting a great deal of money. How does that benefit the rest of us to protect our shoreline, birds, groundwater, or cattle?
Okay, proceed.
And I got one more.
Oh, you got one more? I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
All right, I was. So, 11219, Lakeshore Road. I'd just like to reiterate what everyone has articulated so well. I would just please encourage the board to be foresightful. I am opposed to these wind turbines going in, and I would please hope that you would think of future generations to come. As has been pointed out, we really don't know what the ramifications of them are.